you had the unusual circumstance of him owning his own farm. You were still in the segregated South. Did growing up in that environment prepare you for what you would face when you got into the military, when you got into the workforce, when it came to being an African American going into a predominantly white workforce? What was that? What was that like? How did the way you grow up prepare you for what you would face as you got on into your life?
Well, one of the stories in the book, he taught us about how to deal with rough situations. Many situations in the book, but one of them was when he was stopped by not a police officer, but just another citizen, Caucasian, that thought Dad had done something wrong in driving, and he just came up. He asked my dad to stop the car. And he came up to the window on my dad's side and just verbally abused him. I was only about 8 years old. We were driving, selling vegetables. So my dad is selling vegetables, and his client base is probably 60 or 70% Caucasian, 40% African Americans. But we drive up to a person's house, knock on the door, and ask them, "Do you want to buy corn or peas or beans?" And that guy came up and thought Dad had cut him off or something. And I saw my dad take about 5 minutes of abuse. He never took his eyes off the road. He kept both hands on the wheel and let that guy stand at his window and yell all kind of obscenities and whatever, because Dad's objective was to sell his vegetables and to get us home safely. So I use that for the rest of my life. I've taught both of my kids the same thing. If you're stopped, especially by an officer or whatever, you never put that person in any kind of jeopardy of thinking that their life is in danger. So I use that as an example, both hands on the wheel, and never give them any problem, because your objective is to get home safely. But I also learned from him the ability to deal with all kinds of people, because when Dad's out there selling vegetables, he's just not going to sell them to African Americans. He's going to sell them to whoever he can sell them to. So he went into neighborhoods that people didn't look like him, and we knocked on the door. And I believe that Dad became their preferred produce producer. So he learned how to delight customers. I learned that and moved it into the work environment. I still talk about it today about delighting customers, because I believe that you can exceed a person's expectations, and they will prefer you. And when they prefer you, Dan, they don't prefer you because you're green, yellow, black, green, or whatever. They prefer you because you offer them a value greater than someone else. And I hate the term, I shouldn't use the word hate, but I detest the word about being privileged and all these other things, because I believe my dad showed that he could go into an environment of people that didn't look like him on the outside, but they preferred his produce and the way he handled himself better than someone else. I don't care what color they were.